So again, he's gonna deal with Spencer. It is currently 2-0 combo.
Here we go. This should be dead Spencer. No, he drops the combo.
A little faster in X Factor.
Oh, can't block after the teleport. He cannot block after the teleport. He can still come back. He can still come back.
He can definitely still come back. Martin's got to not press the...
Oh, no. Oh, he missed the launch.
Yeah, Martin's got to be very careful. Does not want to press the button.
He's waiting.
Does not want to press the button.
X-Factor is going now. Now Martin's going in. This is still a good matchup.
Oh.
He gets hit. Rocket Punch Super. Oh, nice by Mar. Nice. Keep it basic. That's not going to work.
That's too far. He's got Bionic Arm.
Bionic Arm.
OTG. Bionic Arm. Giving Sale. He has another chance.
He's still in it. He's still in it. Bionic Arm. Combo V. 3-0. Combo V takes it 3-0. Martin Fan with the look of disgust. What? Martin Fan, one of the favorites. What? Oh my God, lady. It was incredible.
Comboing 3-0 Martin in crazy fashion. The comebacks are nuts.
Never give up. Never give up.
Hey everybody, welcome to Directional Influence episode 24, brought to you by VVV Gaming. I'm your host, Rapture. With me today is Matt. As always, Matt, how you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Long day, class, but chilled out now.
Yeah, definitely. I've had a very interesting day of Marvel, just playing a lot. But anyway, we've got another episode for you guys here today, as we do every Tuesday, and we got some subjects to talk about. First off, we're going to talk about scrubs, and not just in general bad people, but most, we'll get into it, but it'll be interesting. After that, we're gonna, or maybe not after that, I don't know, whatever order it comes in, we'll be talking about side events at Brawl tournaments. Whether it be for Marvel, for Street Fighter, for Pokemon sometimes. What are the pros and cons of having a side event, and our thoughts on actual side events if they do show up, because sometimes they don't even get to fit in the schedule at tournaments. And then finally, we will be talking about, somewhere in that order, what was the other topic? And then after that, in our third or whatever order topic, is Brawl dying? We've been noticing a lot of people feel this way, maybe. We're not sure. But is it really dying, and what can we do to hypothetically save it from its apparent death? So all of that, in some order, coming to you tonight on Directional Influence episode 24. So stay tuned after this transition. Alright, so one thing I wanted to talk about tonight is my blog. I have a blog at dlaskyblog.wordpress.com, and I'll link that. Wow, I just completely butchered that link, but it's a mouthful sort of. I'll link you to it, and it's fairly new, and I have things on there like my Directional Influence posts, which link to the episode for people who don't go to Smashboard, Brawlers Brawl, etc. I've also had things like I wrote a poem about those stupid ass chickens and Ocarina of Time, and other things. And the latest post I put up as of this recording was something about fighting games, which I called Why I Love Fighting Games. And the reason I wrote that is because it was in response to another blog that somebody else had written called Why I Hate Fighting Games. And I'm going to say this before I start off, but everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I wasn't bashing his right to have an opinion, nor was I bashing him personally. I don't even know the guy. I was not bashing, I was just commenting on his points. And you can read the blog, but it essentially boiled down to things like not being able to beat the difficulty curve, and getting destroyed by someone who doesn't even research or know the combos and all of that. And I essentially went into a very justified not argument, but replied back in very good paragraphical fashion. So the point I'm making here is that at the end of the day, he wanted me to take down the blog because there's innocent hatred his way, and how he wasn't saying fighting games suck and all this and that, but and here's what bothers me is I wrote the blog because I wanted to say that fighting games are what they are because of what they are. They're fighting games. He was saying how fighting games don't have a narrative, and he implied it to be a bad thing. He said how people apparently in Marvel you can just win without any combos or knowing how to do anything, and it doesn't matter what he does, he'll lose. And fighting games apparently there's too much of competition. There's not enough just playing the game. So Matt, I don't know if you read it or not, but what do you think about pretty much the justification of what the guy was saying?
Well, I mean, people often look for excuses when they're losing, especially when they have a mentality like that. And I mean, we touched on it when we did the Gimpy Fish episode, and because he touched on it in his video as to why people have this really the true definition of scrub mentality. And I mean, I understand that it can be frustrating, like to me as to anybody who's just sitting down and they're losing to button mashing. And I mean, honestly, the first time I sat down to play Marvel, I'm pretty certain I lost to somebody button mashing, and then I learned some basic combos and stuff, and I mean, I got over it. But that's because I play fighting games, and I know that there will be a certain point where I'll hit it and I'll know that I can beat this person who's just mashing face on their controller. But say I was playing a first-person shooter and somebody was doing something broken, and I obviously am not really going to find a way around it, and I'm not going to try and find a way around it because it's not the kind of genre I really enjoy. So, I mean, I can see where this guy is coming from because he probably honestly just doesn't like fighting games. And he doesn't want to take the time to learn fighting games, and I think that's what a lot of people's problem is that have this sort of opinion about different types of games. I mean, I'm not going to outright bash a respectable first-person shooter because I don't know how to beat a certain strategy. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of his points was that fact that he couldn't beat button mashing, and the game itself, Marvel, and it may just be because I do play fighting games and I know that there are ways to get around it. I could, air dash, ground dash, block is a very simple way to do it, and use advancing guard, simple things which I didn't, in my response I felt like if he did take the time to research and learn things, the most basic things you could learn help you against like button mashing or people who don't know what they're doing. And the reason I wanted to make the post is because I felt like the opinion was not that he doesn't have the right to say it, but that it almost feels like it was one of those spur of the moment, oh, well, I keep losing to Marvel, well, now that I have the reason to justify it. And, he plays, he says he doesn't like playing competitively, we play StarCraft 2, and he, all these things, but there's fighting games, there's a lot to learn when you're playing it. You got to learn matchups, you got to learn how a character works and functions, especially in games where you got to rely on combos, you got to remember how to input the combos, etc. But in a game like StarCraft, you got to remember builds, matchups, how maps work, how your units work, how to macro, how to micro, all of those things that I feel like someone could easily do the same thing he did with Marvel or Street Fighter. He covered on Street Fighter 2, and say the same thing about StarCraft or Call of Duty or Halo.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, even just before, I was actually just playing a game of League of Legends, and some guy was just ranking on us. I know a lot of you guys who listen up play League, so I mean, bar with me if you don't know the lingo, but this guy was just continually getting raped by our jungler, and he's like, oh, you stupid fag, like you're using gay strategies, like hiding in bushes and waiting for me to be almost dead. But I mean, like, that's how you play the game, and if you play the game, then you understand that that's how the game works.
Yeah. I was just playing Nakat earlier, and Nakat got a lot better than the last time I played him in Marvel, and he camped the fuck out of me when he had the lead, and it sucked, but that's what you gotta do sometimes. You gotta time somebody out, you gotta win. Same thing in Brawler.
Yeah.
That's how you do it, and it's unfortunate sometimes, but if you understand how the game works, you're gonna realize, well, if this is a winning strategy, you can call it gay all you want, but it's play to win. It's
yeah,
play
and
to
I
win.
mean, I think another really frustrating part about dealing with fighting games for people is that they want to hit things.
Yeah.
And they want to hit things a lot, but they don't understand that literally the most important thing about fighting games is blocking.
Yeah.
It is literally the first thing you have to learn how to do and how to punish out of blocking. Like, they just don't understand that holding back will defeat 90% of button mashers.
Yeah, and once you learn how to low block, well, you know, you've
The
got
other
some
10
options.
the
Yeah, you
other
got some
10%
options.
are covered.
Exactly. You know, it's yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's, again, I didn't have anything against the guy, and I understood where he was coming from, but I was really just commenting on his points. And like I said, you know, I made some like, oh, well, just stop sucking. But you know, it gets to a point where you go to like you know, a basketball game and you just sit there or you're playing with your friends, for example, and you just keep missing and missing and missing, and you just talk shit to people. Oh, well, this is stupid. You know, why can someone just run up to the basket and score? Well, why don't everybody shoot from 1 point or whatever? There's too much difficulty. You know, well, he said how developers need to stop making elitist games and something like that. And I was like, developers should not make games to make them easier for people.
Yeah, and I mean that's actually one of the problems with games today is that
Yeah.
if you look at a game like Marvel 3 compared to Marvel 2, the skill gap is humongous. It's like when you can literally just kind of like, I mean, I'm not saying Marvel skill is because it obviously takes skill, but compared to Marvel 2,
yeah,
I mean,
huge.
the combos are a lot easier. I mean, I learned Dante's B&B in like 2 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it really is. It's and again, Marvel is it's really Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is a completely different beast than Marvel 2 because it comes down to don't press buttons or you're gonna get raped in the face.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's a kind of game where it's one hit can ruin the game for you, and it makes a really really competitive game because people don't want to get hit. But they want to,
especially with X Factor.
Exactly.
Especially with X Factor.
You know, so for someone, honestly, sometimes a game maybe needs to be easy, but Marvel isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I play a game like I don't know what kind. I play RPGs. You know, I play different kind of first-person games, and I don't want those games to be particularly difficult. I mean, I'm just kind of playing them to have fun. But when I'm playing like a game against other people, I want to feel as though I beat that person because I know what I'm doing, not that that I fucking lost.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but
my point is made.
Yeah. I mean, there's a difference between unnecessary difficulty and inherent difficulty. Marvel is inherently difficult because the people who play it make it difficult for the people they're playing against. That's why Marvel is difficult at top play, because you're playing somebody who's good. Then there may be games that are just stupidly difficult because of how they were made. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is not stupidly difficult because of how it was made. It's just that the top players are really fucking good, But if you play a game where if you move once and you step on, something stupid, and a boss comes out of nowhere, it literally, rapes you, and you lose all your health, and you have to not touch that little fucking pixel you can't see, and get to the other side of the stage. You know what? That seems like a really unnecessarily difficult game for me. But now you know what? I'll complain about that. But a game that isn't unnecessarily difficult, I really don't feel like people have a right to complain about that.
Pre-nerf Devil May Cry 3. Did you get it before they nerfed it?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my god.
I did, and
that was an unnecessary.
And I've played Ninja Gaiden 2.
Oh Jesus!
All right, I will tell you all right now, it is so annoying to play Ninja Gaiden 2 and to try and attack people. They're coming from all angles, the camera's not working, and then when I die, I have to fucking go through 3 loading screens to die again. That unnecessarily difficult game for me. Marvel or Smash Bros, not unnecessarily difficult. You know what? I'm not the best Brawl player, and by the way, I am not ranked last in New England. I looked at the full rankings. I am not ranked last. Let's go. Anyway, it's not unnecessarily hard for me. It's just that the people are better than me, so I got to play better. And that's I think maybe this guy is losing that sort of difference between inherently difficult and unnecessarily difficult.
Yeah, and I mean another point I'd like to make is that outside of the entire argument in general, when you can't, like this guy, I mean, I can understand how he has his opinions and stuff, but when you make points and then somebody counters it with points, as you did, which is typical in any standard form of debate, if anybody's ever debate anybody or seen a debate, I mean, and then when they counter your arguments, you try and tell them to take it down, like they're bashing you or something because they're countering your very weak points, as this guy put in his blog. I mean, that's not cool.
Yeah.
Like you should be able to be corrected, Like if you can't see it, then just I don't know.
And even then, like, he gave his opinion, and you know what? I respected his opinion, and you know what? I even acknowledged his opinion by replying to it. I don't feel like I need to delete my opinion because of what he doesn't agree with. I didn't agree with what he said, so I replied to it. He has every right to reply to mine, and he did, and I made my points against those things too. And you know what? I even took the time and courtesy to edit it to make it less abrasive in terms of his personal status, instead of, because I did make a few references of him not sucking, but most of them were general, like, you suck, like, you as in the general sucky scrubs out there, not you as in him personally.
I think people just take that language, like I've called people scrubs before, but like, to me, the word scrub means something entirely different than it means to them, and they've gotten legitimately offended by it. And like, I'm just like, well, I mean, it's true. Like, the way you're looking at this game right now is you're a scrub. Like, that's the direct definition. And then they'll just gangbang me and just be like, oh no.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I mean, that happens a lot where I'll just use words that have entirely different definitions in the Smash community.
Yeah, and trust me, if I really thought this guy was bad, if I really thought he was bad, the blog I would have made would be a lot different. He would have known it. He would have known that I was going out of my way to let everybody in the blogosphere world know that this guy fucking sucks at fighting games and needs to be crucified for it. But I didn't do that. So I feel like I was justified in what I was doing. Even so, the moral of the story is, if you do have that scrub mentality, and obviously you're probably not going to realize it on your own, which is sort of, not really a vicious cycle, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess sort of look at it from different perspectives, as I found like I did too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in order to be like competitive at anything, you eventually have to grasp this concept. I mean, like, when somebody I mean, just using Marvel as an example, once again, like, I could say that Sentinel is broken, and Sentinel is pretty retarded, but I mean, if somebody will take the time to sit down and explain to me, how you can beat Sentinel, the ways to beat Sentinel, the ways to avoid Sentinel, I mean, then I'll accept that and admit that I was wrong in saying that Sentinel is broken and ruins the game, or whatever I might have said. Which I don't think I ever did, because I actually play Sentinel, and he's lols.
Yeah.
But you have to be a little more open-minded, and that doesn't just go for this sort of fighting game community in general, but I mean, you have to be more open-minded in general to new ideas. And I think that's actually going on a more larger tangent that I won't really touch too much more upon, is that's actually just a problem in general in the world, is that people just aren't open to new opinions.
Tolerance, people. Tolerance. Be open-minded. So.
Speaking of being tolerant, we may as well, at this point, I mean, I know you all you guys have probably heard of the Japan incident, and so, I mean, I figured we'd just have to leave a little mention in here, even though I know you guys have been hearing about it all week, and just shout-outs to Japan. I read a blog that the Japanese Smashers are okay. Not that they're the only ones we care about, but I mean, like, they're like the only people from Japan I've ever met. So, I mean, it's pretty terrible. Shout-outs to Japan. Hope they get better soon.
Yeah, definitely. All our prayers go out to Japan. Hopefully that, they could find their loved ones and everything. And I, by the way, just want to point this out. If you guys want to donate to the Red Cross, the American Red Cross, who obviously are right now working with, everyone in Japan to try and get everybody out safely, you can text to the number 90999 the word Red Cross, and they'll reply to you back, do you want to donate $10? And reply back yes, and you will be donating $10 that'll come from your cell phone bill. That's just a simple donation you can make to the American Red Cross to help out all of our guys out there. But really, we're just waiting for Brood to give that Tsunami, the 3 stock with Olimar and Delfino. Like, we're just waiting.
Yeah, he's gonna purple up smash it into infinity.
He's waiting. Like, they got this. They got it.
I actually saw a comment, as terrible as it is, that I laughed at it, but somebody said that Brood must have whistled through the tsunami. Like, I lost it. I mean, you kind of have to laugh at a time of tragedy like this. I mean,
yeah, but and all of you people who are saying remember Pearl Harbor, I heard a lot of people were like,
yeah, I mean, like, evidently, I mean,
apparently people don't like Japan. Like, what's that?
Yeah, I mean, come on, fuck you guys.
Yeah, seriously. Like, honestly, we dropped 2 atom bombs on them. I think we're pretty even. You know,
I think we were more than even.
I think we were more. I think we were a little like overzealous in terms of our evenness. But
why are we even talking about that?
I don't know. But anyway, our hearts out go to Japan and
donate, guys.
Donate,
donate,
donate.
Because there's been a lot of especially yeah, fill Japan's pot.
Yes, definitely.
All pot fillers, instead of going to a tournament this weekend and filling Mewtwo King's pot, I want you to fill Japan's pot.
Exactly. Donate. There's a lot of ways for you to donate. I'll make sure everybody is reminded later in the show how you can donate a simple way using your cell phone, like I just said. And also there are tons of other ways. And if you want, fly over to Japan and go dig stuff. I'm sure they need dig. Dig.
And I believe that's that.
Yep.
An interesting segment. Alright guys, so we've all been to a tournament that has had a side event before, whether it be Melee, typically, or Marvel, or any other game that could possibly be a side event. And, I mean, people tend to have mixed feelings towards side events. Dakota, what do you think about side events?
Well, first off, I like side events that actually happen. And we know, for all of you who have been to Smash tournaments, that side events don't always happen. Usually a side event will be listed under the rules as a possibility, depending on scheduling. And if you've ever been to a tournament, you'll know that most likely it didn't happen, depending on, how long it took to take, for the setups to be used for the tournament, etc. In my personal opinion, I am very much someone who loves seeing different communities come together, which is why I'm a big fan of like MLG, because when I went to MLG Meadowlands 2008 playing Gears of War 1, I loved being there and playing with the Gears players, but I also loved being there and playing with Halo. All the Halo guys, they're really good guys, and I love that sort of meshing of communities. So to see different games show up, whether it be Brawl and Melee, or Brawl Melee and Street Fighter, or Brawl and Marvel, whatever, Brawl and Pokemon or something, which has happened. It's great to see it. They don't really mesh sometimes; they just sort of keep to themselves. But I like the variety, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I like side events typically, but I don't like when people host lame side events that I don't know. I just feel like people host pointless side events half the time. Like when they'll host a Melee tournament, like a Melee side event, like 6 people will show up for Melee. Yeah. And I mean, like, that's kind of lame.
Yeah, but then again, I'm sure they weren't expecting 6 people to show up. So
yeah, I mean, I think that side events should be a little more than side events. Like, I mean, when you see something listed as like a side event, you get a little discouraged, especially if it's like your main game. Like, if you see, like, Melee side event, you're thinking that you're going to be stuck all the way in the back with, like, one setup. Like, I mean, I think that we should grow side events to be more like co-tournaments.
Yeah, I was going to actually get to that. I want to rephrase what I was saying. I like the idea of side events, not actually side events, because they shouldn't be a side event. They should be a co-game, When someone runs a big national tournament, it's not Brawl and a Melee side event. It's not Melee and a Brawl side event. It's Brawl and Melee. And even then, it's Brawl and Melee and Street Fighter and Marvel, whatever. Like, for example, every freaking Street Fighter, tournament there is. It's not just Street Fighter and then 10 people show up for Marvel. It's Street Fighter, it's Marvel, it's Tekken, it's Blaze Blue, it's Arcana Hearts or whatever. I mean, this past weekend we had final round 14, over 300 entrants for both Super Street Fighter 4 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and from there Tekken had a lot. Our Blaze Blue, Arcana Hearts, Super Street Fighter 2 HD Remix, Turbo,
even
whatever.
Guilty Gear.
And even Guilty Gear was there.
Interest. No one plays Guilty Gear anymore.
Guilty Gear was should. Exactly. So what I'm saying is that tournaments can easily run, with that sort of thing going. I mean, even locals, Street Fighter and Marvel are almost side by side all the time. And then again, and I want to sort of almost counter my point, is that there's a huge difference between Smash tournaments and other fighting tournaments. The Brawl and Melee communities are very split, so it's very unlikely that, unlike in Street Fighter and Marvel, where players are playing both games. I mean, some people will play Marvel, will play Street Fighter, will play Blaze Blue, will play several games to win all this money. Melee players aren't always going to, if at all, ever play Melee and play Brawl, or vice versa.
And that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. It really is. And I feel like we should... What? Yeah.
I just feel like this problem stems mostly from the lack of good venues. Honestly, at least that's a problem
Yeah.
on Long Island, is that we can't really find a good venue actually. And I'm actually curious as to how one goes about to find such a venue that can host a large tournament.
Yeah, it's odd that it's somehow it gets done by other communities, but I mean you have to remember that when we do our locals, they're locals. They are very localized.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's going to be obvious that if you're doing something like that, sort of stature, it's going to be not a very big venue. And there's a mentality in Smash Bros. When you get to a local, you shouldn't be expecting maybe more than 30 people. If you get lucky, sometimes 20, maybe less than that. So why get a big venue? When you're not promised that. In Smash, I feel like there's a really really big distinction people make automatically out of the gate, that if it's not a local, it'll be a regional or a national. There's no gray area almost.
Yeah. And that probably leads us into our next point. Smash. A lot of blogs are being made on All Is Brawl and posts on Smash boards, Facebook, AIM statuses. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of Smashers and stuff. Just that people think that Brawl in general is a dying game. And to an extent, I feel like Brawl has kind of run its course a little bit, but I think that there's actually a lot of things that we can do to fix the problem. What do you think, Dakota?
It's a hard opinion for me to give because I've only been in the community for so long, and it's almost odd to be like, oh, Brawl's almost dying. Well, for someone who would know the difference, like let's say somebody had no idea that Brawl existed at all, and they just came to it. They're like, oh, Brawl's dying. Well, how long has it been out for? Like, what, 10 years? 3. Barely 3. There are things you can do, and I feel like one of the things that could definitely be done is, it's I don't even know, because I mean it's not like we don't run tournaments. Tournaments happen. I feel like if there wasn't a split between the Melee and Brawl community, maybe that would help, because I mean I want to go back to Marvel a little bit. Marvel 2, I mean how active is it now, because I went to Marvel 3, but Marvel 2 players don't segregate themselves from Marvel 3 players because they're the same players. Once again, the fact that Melee players only play Melee, Brawl players only play Brawl, and there are some exceptions, obviously, that sort of split that they made, the fact that some people just hate the other community, and all the people that represent them, it doesn't help. And Brawl is on sort of the bad end of that because Melee is still going strong. Very, 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 very strong for a long, long time. Way longer than Brawl has. Over, way over double, the amount of years Brawl has been out. And the fact that Melee can do that and still have better turnouts than Brawl by being out by, such a long amount of time, as much as I can say that there are ways Brawl cannot die if it is, you have to wonder if it's at all possible.
Well, I think to touch on what you said before, yeah, we don't have a lack of tournaments, and I honestly think that that's the problem, is that we have so many tournaments that everybody is just getting so split up between going to Genesis, going to Pound, going to this, going to that. There's a lot of tournaments going on, and people are forced to make a decision. Well, do I want to go to Pound? West Coast and the South are probably not really going to want to go to Pound. They might want to go to WOBO, but East Coast isn't going to want to go to WOBO. And Genesis, of course, West Coast is going to go to Genesis, but no one on the East Coast. Maybe the South is going to go to Genesis. I mean, we're so split because we're spending money on tournaments that are closer to us that it's actually splitting our community apart, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you have so many options, there's no reason to take an option that's just inherently worse. I know people who went to MLG last year over Apex because MLG I believe happened to be closer or whatever. What are you going to do? And last year was very oversaturated with tournaments, especially nationals, because of MLG. I completely agree with you. It's not like there isn't a lack of tournaments, but there are so many tournaments that people have to, they don't have to travel as far, so they get really really close knit but in a bad way. Like, you're always seeing the same people play. All the same people are always taking the same amount of money from the same people, and they're doing it in the same venues. They're doing it in the same games. They're doing it every 2 weekends or every weekend or something.
Yeah, and that's such a problem too. Is that people, when they go to host a tournament, they're like, well, this has to be a regional. That's in their mind. Like, there's no way that they're going to host a local tournament that maybe a couple out of state people show up to. They have to host a regional where
everybody has to go.
Everybody has to go.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that hosting tournaments is a bad thing. I'm just, it's one of those problems that's really awkward because I can't find a real way to stop that. Like, I can't really say, hey, stop hosting tournaments, because it's clearly drawing our wallets out to the point that we can't make it to these big events where we can watch something as exciting as, like, Mike Hayes versus Anti, or let's say Razor versus Badal that happened at Pound. We don't get to see that often, and I think that the fact that we have, especially this year, where we had 3 huge national tournaments, all in completely different parts of the country. It's just really just tearing people apart. And I think that Brawl has hit a dry spell. And I'm not completely sure if I could say it's dying as much as it is that this year in particular is a really, it's really tearing people from side to side.
Yeah, and it's funny because this is actually looking to be a big year in terms of tournaments for Brawl and for Melee. I mean, Melee has Zenith coming up soon. Wobo is coming up this weekend after Pound just happened. I mean, you got Pound, Wobo just happened. Genesis is coming up this summer. You have Apex in the winter, and at first glance, oh, well, that's really good. There's tons of tournaments. But then you got to sit down. How are you making it to all those tournaments? And this goes out to those players who aren't making money all the time, people who fill in the pots.
Yeah, I mean, we can obviously see Ally Mewtwo King traveling around the country and stuff, but to me, who doesn't really make money at tournaments, I mean, it's kind of difficult for me as a college student who doesn't really have time to get a job and who really still loves this game. It's hard for me to make the decision as to what tournaments I want to go to. I mean, I would honestly love to have gone to Wobo, but there's absolutely no way I'm making it, and I absolutely would love to go to Genesis, and I have a small chance of making it to Genesis. Apex, I have no reason to miss Apex because it's so close to me. But I mean, I'm not really expecting to see somebody like Mike Hayes, who I would love to see there. I mean, it's really as to whether Brawl is dying or not. I mean, we won't really be able to tell until we hit a sort of dry spell of tournaments, and we get that one big tournament where everybody just shows up, and then all of a sudden we look like we're alive again.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna get to a point where there's going to be a big tournament, and it's not going to have the turnout. I mean, Pound had a good turnout. It's not like it didn't, but we're going to see something worse before it gets better. And, and the thing is, too, is that a lot of, Smash Bros. Players aren't able to travel as much. And, I mean, me, I have a job on the weekends, only on the weekends. So, right there, I have to either go to a tournament where I'm not going to win money at, but spend money, or go to my job where I can obviously make money. That's the whole point. And I honestly go to tournaments at this point when I don't go to a lot, but I'm planning to go to Genesis, for example. I'd love to go to Genesis all the way in California. But the reason I want to go is because I want to see the West Coast players. And you know what? I'm not going to do good at Genesis, but I want to be at Genesis. Final round just happened for Marvel and Street Fair, like I said earlier. I would have loved to have been there. There's so much hype there. And that's what I want to say. Is there enough hype for people to do that in Smash anymore? Does it have that? I mean, look how many there were 18,000 people watching final round. 18,000. That means 18,000 people were not there spending their time watching this, but imagine the hype at the venue. That Smash does not have that, and that hurts.
Yeah, I think another thing killing the hype is that you have somebody from like West Coast, say you have like Rich Brown, and he posts in a thread like, "Oh, West Coast isn't coming to Pound anymore," like that just kills people. Like
It does.
it just kills like a big chunk of the hype. Like that's a legitimate issue. Is that when people don't go, the hype is lost.
Yeah,
And,
I agree. I completely agree.
when you split the hype up, it a large amount of hype it does not make.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you go to an event and you're like, oh, I'm watching the same people I just watched play at a local.
Yeah,
play each
honestly,
other.
I mean, Pound Grand Finals was. It wasn't necessarily the worst thing that could have happened, but I mean, like watching Anti play Meta Knight Dittos again, it was just like I can't really get hype over this. I mean, like if it was a bracket match of, say, I don't know, like back at MLG, Anti versus Mike Hayes, I mean, I can get really hype over that because I had never seen that before, and I was really curious as to what was going to happen. And I mean, if maybe even that brings me back to my other point where we have too many tournaments. Say we start splitting big nationals apart. I mean, if you're going to see like rematches every 4 months, it's a lot more hype than seeing rematches every 2 weeks or so. I mean, I could watch Anti versus ADHD like every day at every weekend at a local. I'm not going to get hype over it at national, but say we had a few less tournaments here and there, I might be able to get a little more hype off of that because I mean.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and as much as people want to see top players play, it's like watching professional football, and like your favorite team plays the same team 5 times in a row. Maybe after the second or third time, you're not gonna tune in the 4th or 5th time. You're not going to, because like I've seen this already. I'm pretty good. I'm fine. So when I want to go to a big tournament, like I want to go to Apex, because I'm really hoping that West Coast shows up. Why? Because I want to see players I don't see all the time play the guys that I know how to play. I know how they play. Like, back at Apex last year when Mewtwo King took on Brood, you know why that was hype? Because number one, someone was beating Mewtwo King. But number two, it was someone that we do not see. None of us see play on a regular basis. Not one part of the United States or Canada or Mexico, whatever. Not even Europe. Not one of us. So we're watching somebody play that we're not used to. That's hype. That's that's like a professional sports team coming out of nowhere and start beating teams. People are gonna tune in because like, oh shit, how are you doing that? They want to see. But if if Brood showed up at every single tournament, okay, well he's just another player now. You lose that. There's no uniqueness. There's no variety anymore. Almost.
Moving away from the whole tournament thing, I think another thing that I really put a lot of thought into is that I think that people actually just don't get to play enough friendlies at these big events, because I feel like just walking around the Pound venue, I would watch 2 people play on a TV, and I'd come back like an hour later and those 2 people would still be playing on that TV, and I'd just walk around and I'd see people not playing friendlies and being a little hesitant. I think that what we used to do once in a while back in 08, and what they sort of mimicked at MLG, was the rule where if you lose, you just get off the TV. Like, it's just the way it was. It's always been inferred, but never really implemented as an official rule. And I think that could actually really put a lot more vibe back into tournaments, is that if a pro player is sitting on a TV playing another pro player, like, it seems like no one is going to stop them,
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to butt in and be like, oh, I totally want to play on this TV. But I mean, if they, not saying that we should be particularly rude to our top players, but I mean, if one of them loses, they should probably get up and let somebody else play. And I think that would be really healthy for the community, to just let people play, not only top players, but play everybody.
Yeah, I mean, people, tell those lower players, those bad players like myself, go play friendlies, Where? It's harder than it sounds. Just go up to somebody and pretty much say, can you please leave? I want to do the same thing you're doing, but I don't want you to be doing it. Like I want to take your spot for, because I want to.
I mean, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, it is. So if there was that, maybe not official rule, but the assertion, you lose, you get up, at least it gives play. Even if if the same person is there winning all the time, well, I guess maybe they can get off once in a while, but still they're deserving to play. They're playing, and honestly, I would rather go up to a TV after someone just got off lost and get my ass kicked by a top player and get off, because at least I have some experience. How else are you going to learn?
Yeah, you're doing something. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of times at Pound, even I was just walking around, and I really don't have that much of an issue telling people to get up anymore, like when they lose. But I mean, even then, I was just kind of like walking around just aimlessly, and it wasn't really terribly enjoyable for me. Although, I mean, I enjoyed most of the hype and seeing everybody, but the actual playing aspect, it was kind of ruined for me because, I mean, I'm just walking around watching Anti play Mewtwo King for like the 18th time. I mean, it kind of gets old.
Yeah, yeah, it does. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of. I don't know if Brawl is dying, but there are a lot of improvements that could be made.
Yeah, and I mean, only time will tell. I mean, we should look on the brighter side of things.
Yeah.
Just always look up. If you enjoy the game, support it. If not, enjoy moving on to
Marvel.
bigger. Yeah, Marvel. I mean, that's pretty much it. Shout out to Combo Fiend.
Yes. Oh, good shit by Combo Fiend. Like, real talk, all right? I was watching that entire stream, and honestly, when he went off with Spencer, the big, the first big time on the stream, oh my lord, I had a pretty much like a metaphysical orgasm. Like
Yeah.
what?
I mean,
it
it was particularly enjoyable to me because, like, I mean, I picked up Marvel because, like, sometimes they'll bring it into the game room at college, and like, I just sat down, I learned some of the B&Bs, and I mean, I played Dante, Sentinel, Spencer, and I played them from the beginning because they're really the only characters I enjoyed, because I tried everybody, and they were the only 3 characters I enjoyed playing. And everybody was like, oh, you should drop Spencer because he's terrible. And I'm like, no, he's so fun. There's just something missing. And just watching Combo Fiend bionic arm people in the
Exactly.
face.
That's what exactly. Like he got the crowd going. If you listened, and I'm sure there's no way you could miss it. Every time that bionic arm hit, you would hear a resounding boom come from the crowd. And any time it would, I mean, the same thing happens with Amaterasu. Any commentator I've heard, when Amaterasu gets those jab combos going, you hear that A every time they hit that attack. And it's hype, and I love watching Combo Fiend play that whole entire time, because I knew when that bionic arm was coming, I knew it, and just nails. Then he's like, oh, X Factor cancel, I'm pulling out another one. Right in the face, like.
Yeah, I mean, we need somebody in this community to bionic arm somebody.
Pretty much, we need somebody.
Essentially, what we need. That is how we will revive. Brawl.
Yeah, we need somebody to play Spencer and Brawl and bionic arm people. And I mean, honestly, like I was just playing with Nikat and Rookie. Rookie was playing Marvel. We were talking to Rookie, and I was playing him, and I bionic arm him, and I hit him. And he's like, and I had to get away because he sort of like blocked me. So I bionic armed to the other side of the stage to just get out of there. He's like, oh, played like a true Spencer. I was like, follow bionic arm with a bionic arm, and you know what? Honestly, it's fun. That's the thing. A Brawl I find a really fun game, but it's so. I mean, Marvel is crazy. It is, and when you play and you see that kind of
when you see that screen go blue and you know something's
going down,
something huge is coming, and all of a sudden Spencer's just bionic, and
it just like rapes. I mean, it's like literally a Falcon Punch on steroids, and it's crazy, and people get so into it. It's an experience. That's what I would, it is. That's why I wanted to be there. It is, when you go to a Brawl tournament, and what, honestly, I watch, when I went to Poly Brawl, for example, back last November, and I watched Vinny versus Mewtwo King. You know what? I got into that. That was really fun. But really, it wasn't an experience. It was me watching Vinny play Mewtwo King and almost beat him. By the way, shoutouts to Vinny for almost beating him. Vinny, you're the best. But that right there, that's an experience. That's something you don't see every day. That's something that you need to be there. Maybe Smash needs that need to be there kind of thing.
And that is why we should probably limit the amount of nationals we have.
Yeah,
Because if you have one tournament you need to be at, then that tournament will be hype.
and everyone will be there. Yeah.
And everybody's going to be there, and everybody will watch Spencer Bionic Arm Mewtwo King in the face.
I would love to see that. I'd love to see that. Maybe we need to get like 100 people to start playing Captain Falcon, and just Falcon Punch. Honestly, that would get me hyped about this game. It really would. It's unfortunate that the top characters in the game completely shut down anyone else, whereas in Marvel there's actually a viability to a lot of the characters.
So far.
So far. It hasn't been too long. Maybe that's it. Maybe just because the game is so new, we're understanding that maybe characters could be good, and maybe not too long. No. But then again, that's sort of the hype that comes with a new game coming out, and the same thing happened for Brawl in 2008.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if you guys want to comment on the discussion we just had about is Brawl dying, or tournaments, or whatever, or even our little scrubbed debacle, whatever, debate, discussion, you can comment on our All Is Brawl blog, which is probably how you got to this, or Smashboards, or on the VVV site, or on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, etc. Just please leave us comments. We love to hear them, and we read them to you in the episode if we do see them. So, yep. Out to the outro, I guess. Alright, everybody, that brings us to the end of Directional Influence episode 24. Outro time. Obviously, you guys, we've done this, 24 times, so, you guys should get this. You can follow us on Twitter. VVV Rapture is my Twitter. That's really where we do it. Facebook, search Directional Influence. You can become a member, and I always post an episode on the wall, and then I send a message to all the members, so make sure you have to listen to it. Smashwords, we have our thread pinned on the general Brawl discussion thread. Board, so that shows up. That's always updated. Then we have our All Is Brawl blogs, which is, again, probably how you saw this. And then you can comment us on the Podbean site, on the VVV post, etc.
We like your comments.
We love the comments.
We will make love to your comments.
And we do get comments,
and we do make love to them.
We do. I honestly don't make love to them, but Matt does, so at least every word you write out, Max is somewhere hiding them in his vagina.
Shoutouts to Wobo coming up this weekend. We'll obviously be discussing that.
Exactly.
Next week. Shoutouts to DM Brandon, who is running a Brawl tournament, a Marvel tournament with Brawl. You guys should hit that up if you're interested in both games.
Definitely.
And shoutouts to Bionic Arm.
Yeah, shoutouts. I want to give shoutouts to wow, I don't even know what to give shoutouts to. Yeah, shoutouts to DM Brandon for hosting that. Unfortunately, I can't go because I'm going for a college thing on the 9th, which is when it's happening. So, unfortunately, that's going down. I want to give shoutouts to everyone playing Pokemon, because you're making me really, really want to get it. Oh, and shoutouts to Cliff Blazensky. The reason why I'm shouting out to this guy is because, honestly, after watching one interview the guy did about his game, Gears of War 2, automatically made me want to pre-order it to get the beta. I'm sorry, Gears of War 3. Really, the guy's awesome. Anyway, yeah.
Shoutouts to Japan.
Oh yeah, right. Shoutouts to Japan, and as we said earlier, our hopes and prayers are going out to them, and we really hope they recover. It's going to be a long road, but we're there for them, and hopefully nothing else explodes or anything. Once again, for those of you who are looking for a quick way to donate, I'm sure there are tons of ways you can, but one thing I did, text to the number 90999, that's 90999, which is like an upside down 6, an O, and an upside down 6 3 times more. If you text them Red Cross, that's it. You will be able to donate $10 to the American Red Cross, which is helping out the Japan relief, work right there. So definitely take advantage of that and help out, or go out there and dig some holes.
Diglet.
Let's get some Diglets. Also, and of course, shoutouts to Bionic Arm and Combo Fiend for defeating Justin Wong in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 at final round 14. Epic, truly epic. So, for that, this is episode 24. Next week is our Nexus episode.
And hopefully Will be back.
And Will be back. We don't know what happened to Will. But Will will be back, and he'll be coming from Wobo, so hopefully he'll have
sharing his experiences.
Yeah, so maybe he'll be able to give us something that will revitalize our hope for Brawl, so.
Maybe he'll show up.
maybe he'll show up. Maybe he will show up. But like I said, thanks for listening. Next week, as I said, we have Nexus, and I'm just shuddering as I think about that because it's going to be one hell of an episode. It's going to be crazy. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it. But Nexus will be showing up, and I don't mean Nexus, I mean the entirety of Nexus. Nexus. And that is that. So thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate all the support we all get. 24 episodes in, and, it's going to be absolutely nuts next week, and it's going to be nuts every week because we love doing this show, and as much as maybe if Brawl's dying, Directional Influence is not. That's all I'm saying. So, we out. Peace.
We can't die.
We can't die. There's no...
We have DI.
Exactly. We cannot die because we have Directional Influence. We are Directional Influence. Thanks for listening.